Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and welcome to my third weekly wrap-up of February 2015, wherein I tell you all about the books that I read in the past week. This weekly wrap-up is brought to you by Chris's Tea. Here. Yeah. It smells amazing, Chris. I mean, you don't even need to, drink the stuff. It's like potpourri. Every time I open the jar, it's like, oh my god, it smells so good. It's got a lot of vanilla and clove in it. And I love those things very much. So this is like my 5th cup. Not today, but since I've made it. Oh my god, if I had drank 5 cups of tea this morning, we would have a problem. The first thing that I finished this week was The Goblin Emperor by Katherine Addison. It was book 1 in my February Fantasy Challenge list, and oh my god, I love this book so much, guys! I have already filmed a review of it so that I have more time to go into depth about what I really liked about it, some specific examples, and I will try to have that video up soon. I don't want to repeat myself too much, but just suffice it to say, it was an excellent fantasy book. I highly, highly recommend it if you haven't read it yet. Yeah, it's a fantasy story about a half-goblin, half-elvish teenage boy who becomes emperor when his father and all of his half-brothers are killed in an accident, and he has to go up against a lot of people's misconceptions about who he is, what he can do, what he can't do, and just a lot of political and court intrigue that he's not prepared for. He doesn't have any friends or close family to help him through it, and he is kind and gentle, and it was just a really lovely story. I don't know how to put words, Rachel, words. Drink some more tea. This is one of those books that I gave 5 out of 5 stars to. The second book that I finished this week was a complete turnaround from fantasy. I listened to the audiobook version of Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain. I went into it with a little bit of trepidation because up until the time I listened to this book, the only thing I knew about Anthony Bourdain was that he doesn't like vegetarians and vegans. And so I was just kind of asking for it, you know, like I am mostly vegan and I am about to listen to a book by a guy who is known in the vegan community for hating vegan people. Why did I do that? It actually wasn't, that's not what I had a problem with. I was actually listening to he has a little rant about vegetarians and vegans in the book, and I was ready for it to be a lot more vitriolic and hateful, but it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was gonna be. It was kind of funny, actually. The book itself, though, let's get back on track and talk about the book. He goes into a lot of detail about what inspired his love for food, how he became a chef, just the early stages of his career, and then some highlights of the various places he worked at, where he picked up a lot of his skills, where he picked up some very important life lessons, and finally to what was more like the modern day working at the French restaurant in New York. I can't remember the name. And then his first trip to Tokyo. And content-wise, this is a really interesting book. I was just riveted by what he was talking about most of the time. And it was the presentation and Bourdain's personality that kind of made me go, why am I listening to this sometimes? I'll be honest, Bourdain of 15 years ago is kind of an asshole. But the thing is, it doesn't grate on my nerves as much as it might because he's incredibly honest about it. You have to respect a guy who is brutally honest about his screw-ups, how much of a jerk he was when he was younger, and you know, he's very honest about his drug use, the drug use of people he was working with, the atmosphere in which he works, and he literally comes out and says, yeah, I'm an asshole. At least he's not in denial. But what he has to say about working in a restaurant, his own experience, and then compared to working in the kitchen of somebody else, was very interesting, and I actually felt a little bit bad for him near the end, because one of the final chapters is about how he goes and spends an evening at the kitchen of a different chef, a chef that he says makes better food than he does, and he runs his kitchen very differently. Bourdain is used to working in kitchen conditions where it's basically all sexual harassment, vulgarities, yelling, shouting, people losing their tempers, and just unmanageable chaos. And then he goes to this other chef's kitchen during like the rush hour, and everyone is quiet and efficient and productive, and there's no butt swatting or people, you know, saying horrible things to each other. There's no yelling, no raising of voices, and they are just as efficient and productive as the people in his kitchen. And I was like, did you learn something, Bourdain? You don't need to be losing your temper and yelling obscenities at people to make good food. I don't think that's the actual lesson he took away from that. I don't know. But anyway, I thought this book was good, and some people probably think it is fantastic, and some people might be really put off by some of the more vulgar content and subject matter, but I don't think I think that's been overemphasized. I don't think it's really that bad. So it was interesting to listen to, and like I said, the subject matter, very, very interesting, especially if you have any interest in the food industry and the restaurant business and food in general and what it takes to be a professional chef. Bourdain is incredibly open and honest about how hard it is and what it takes. The third and final book that I finished this week was Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. And I'll admit here, I don't really know what to say about this book. At first I was like, is this book overhyped for me? And I thought, no, actually, I didn't go into it expecting it to blow my mind. I just went into it expecting to get a good, solid fantasy story. And that is exactly what Assassin's Apprentice is. I think my problem with it was that it was a bit slower paced than I was expecting, and it follows a pretty traditional coming-of-age education story for a young man, and I never really felt like Fitz had a personality I could really latch onto. He was this blank for me. A lot of the other characters, I felt like I got a pretty good sense of their personalities, so it was very weird to finish this book and just feel like Fitz was blank. The story was okay. I was just barely hanging in there until about the last 10% of the book, and the most interesting things happen in this big rush at the end, and I was really surprised at how slow everything was up until the end. It's like all the stuff that happens in the Mountain Kingdom thing. Sorry, it's 9:30 in the morning. I can't remember anything. All of that stuff with Verity's bride-to-be, the being outed as a poisoner and everything, that was super interesting, but it felt incredibly rushed. I was waiting for it to slow down and get a bit more political intrigue, and mostly it was just bam, 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 we're done. I want to continue with the series. I feel like this is just the opening shot of something that's much more epic scale, and now that we've moved beyond the education of Fitz stage, I think I might enjoy his adventures more. I felt that the book really picked up once he started leaving Buckkeep and doing things on his own. He started having his own adventures, getting into his own trouble, and he had to start thinking for himself more instead of being rescued by other people or whatever. I started enjoying that more. I think the other books should follow that pattern more. So I could be wrong. So I'm not bashing on this book. I did enjoy it. I will be continuing with the series. I'll try to finish at least this first trilogy by Robin Hobb, and then finally judge whether I really like the books, if I really like Robin Hobb as an author or not. So let's quickly talk about what I am currently reading. I am still reading Memory by Lois McMaster Bujold. I will finish this book today. It's large print, actually, so even though it looks like I'm pretty far from the end, I'm not. I swear I'm not. For the February Fantasy Challenge, I am reading The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in a Ship of Her Own Making by Catherynne M. Valente. I'm about a quarter of the way through this. I'm also about a quarter of the way through The Magicians by Lev Grossman. So far I'm enjoying it. I was really expecting to be one of those people that immediately hated all of the characters, but as far as I can tell, all of the characters in this act exactly the way that I'd expect spoiled, smart, neglected teenagers to act. I feel kind of sad for them, actually. I haven't even gotten to... They're still in school. There's probably some very momentous happenings I haven't gotten to yet, and I might change my opinion, but right now I'm just like, yeah, seems pretty realistic to me. This week I will also be starting the Guns of Avalon Book 2 in the Amber Chronicles. The buddy read schedule for the series has Guns of Avalon starting yesterday on Valentine's Day, and I didn't get around to starting it even though I wanted to because I took a 3-hour nap. My sleep debt is out of control. And last but not least, I'll be reading Crux by Ramez Naam. I'll be buddy reading this with Tara from Terabyte. I'll link her channel down below. You should all go watch her videos. If you aren't already, you should be. So I'm looking forward to this. That is what I read this past week. That is what I'm currently reading, what I hope to get to in the coming week. I'm going to try and get through all of my library books in February and then focus just on the books that I own in March because I keep putting them off. There are some fantastic books that I own that are on my to read or to reread list in 2015, and I just need to buckle down and start reading them. Lagoon by Nnedi Okorafor will definitely be one of those. So yeah, thank you guys for watching me once again. If you have any comments about what I read or what I'm currently reading, please let me know, and I will talk to you guys again soon. Bye.